Hey, welcome back, gang. This is your first time watching Johnny Steel Guitar Licks. Welcome. We talk about all things pedal steel here, not just how to play licks, but also how to work on guitars. And today we're going to talk more about how to practice. So if that sounds like something you're into, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. And then everyone answer in the comments, do you have any kind of pre-gig or pre-practice ritual that you do before you start playing that helps get you centered? So before we dive into all that, you might notice I've got a different guitar in front of me. So I actually work on guitars. So if you're in the Austin area and your guitar's being a little wonky, behaving a little bit naughty, so to speak, I can probably help you out with that. This one has some problems. It's the A pedal. It starts on the 5th string before it starts on 10. So we're going to work on that. The C pedal's only working on 1 string. So that definitely needs to be fixed. We'll get the pedal heights fixed and all that good stuff. So if you're in the market for a first time guitar, steel guitar, the Carter Starter is an okay option. It has 3 pedals and 4 knee levers, so the copedent is exactly what you need. However, it is permanent, meaning the bell cranks are welded to the crossbars, so we're not going to be able to change what any of the pedals or levers do. But for a beginner, that's not really necessary anyway. At this point, they're all going to be pretty old, and they've probably passed through the hands of a lot of beginners, and that's probably what led to this one just getting a little bit funky. But they are cheap, and like I said, the copedent is standard. It'll definitely get you through that first year or two of practice, so it's an okay option. So over the last week, I've just had my finals week, so I wrote 2 finals papers. I've driven over like 14 hours to get to gigs in San Angelo and Abilene and New Braunfels. And so I've been redlining it pretty hard. So I've, of course, come down with a cold, but the show must go on. I've got a gig at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City in a couple days with the Damn Quails. So I'm going to get a chance to rep my team in there at their home court. So that's pretty cool. So I don't even really have time or the energy to post any new licks or really time to unpack my gear. So I figured this would be a great opportunity for us to continue talking about practice. So we already did a full-length video about how to practice specifically for speed on the pedal steel. Today we're going to talk about just some overarching principles and then a few tips, especially for beginners, to have real effective practice sessions. So let's bring it in a little bit closer. A little bit closer. Ah, God, not that close. So before we dive into the mental aspects, there are a couple things we can do with technique that'll instantly improve our playing. The first thing is, when we're practicing and playing, we always want to be focused on our bar hand, right? Being able to hit the frets precisely is very important. If we're looking at our picking hand, we're going to start getting sloppy, right? Trying to move back and forth. There just isn't time in a real life situation like playing a gig that I have time to keep going back and forth, right? The strings aren't going anywhere. So I have my right hand, right? Whether it's my palm or an anchored finger, that'll tell me where the strings are. And then I can also use my bar hand to control where my right hand goes. I can use by going up with my bar, my right hand will follow it, and going down with my bar, my right hand will follow it. So take, for example, just like a major scale. Right, you'll notice that I moved up to grab the 2nd string, and then as I went down the strings, my bar followed with it. And that went from my left hand to my brain to my right hand to tell it where to go. Also, like I talked about having an anchored finger, especially with pick blocking, right? By keeping that finger there, my thumb and middle know exactly where they need to get back to. And that way, I'm able to really focus on just my bar, hitting those frets precisely. Also, a benefit of using our up and down bar motion is what's called bar blocking. Say if I pick this 3rd string and I slide my bar back, that note gets blocked, right? And it gets blocked because my bar isn't on it anymore, and I also have my back finger that's supporting the bar is touching that string, keeping it from ringing. So that's another important aspect of playing. Bar control telling our right hand where to go and also muting strings. That's one less thing that my right hand has to do to block notes. So always be focused on the bar hand when we're practicing and playing. Another thing we need to be aware of is tension. Whenever we're playing, we always want to keep a relaxed arm and hand, right? Go watch some videos of people playing on Instagram. When they start playing something hard, they start getting tense and this elbow starts drifting out, right? And while we think the tension is helping us pick the notes better, be more precise, it's actually pulling us out of position and making it harder to pick the notes. We're actually like, our hand muscles are fighting against themselves, and that's only actually going to slow us down instead of speeding us up. So before we ever start a rep, we're just going to take a breath, relax the shoulder, right? We want ideally about a 90-degree angle from the guitar to our upper arm. One thing we can do is just tuck something under our armpit, right? Newspaper, tennis ball, something like that. If our elbow starts drifting out, it'll fall out and have us bring our attention back to this relaxed arm. At the same time, we don't want to start squeezing it, right? Pulling tension in there, but just enough to keep it in your armpit and keep it nice and relaxed. So now let's talk about some general theory on how to practice more effectively. Musicians often don't consider the physical aspects of practice, and I think that can really harm how good we practice and play. Now, my other passion is powerlifting. We'll throw up a picture right here of me deadlifting a New Mexico state record of 585 pounds in the 90 kilogram submaster category. So I know a thing or two about how to train, and a lot of these theories apply to music and sports. Because just like a sport, even though we don't expend as much energy, we're using our muscles and tendons and our mind to accomplish a task. So whenever we're practicing, we need to have some kind of goal, right? Whether it's like, I'm going to play this harmonized scale 2 times in a row perfect at 80 milligrams at 80 beats per minute. Sorry, I'm going to school for addiction counseling, so I've been talking about that a lot lately. 80 beats per minute, right? That could be a goal, or it could be, I'm going to learn section A of this song with no tempo, but be able to play it perfect. But when we go into a session, we need to have an idea of where we're going. Otherwise, we're just messing around. If I walked into a gym and just did, a few sets of leg extensions and some dumbbell curls or whatever, I did some work, but I didn't really accomplish anything. So having a goal is very important in setting it. This is our little chart of time, right? And this will be like where our skill level is, right? All right, so we're trying to get, we're not up there yet. So we're down here and we're trying to get up there to whatever our goal is. So again, having a specific goal, right? We always talk about specific goals because we need to be able to judge whether we got there or not, right? Okay, the next thing we need to know is how prepared are we for this practice session? If I haven't eaten a good meal, or maybe I slept really bad, I'm probably not going to be able to deadlift 500 pounds in this session, right? I need to temper my expectations. And we do the same thing with practicing, right? If I'm not feeling good, if I'm super stressed out, it's probably not a good time to work on some speed progressions or something. Maybe work on something nice and slow and pretty, right? So again, having an idea of how prepared we are for the session. Other things that can contribute to that is like time of day. I'm a morning guy when it comes to practicing guitar or powerlifting. It lets me wake up and just instantly be focused on that. And I don't have to have anything else to worry about until that training session is done. So other things you can do to, increase how effective your practice is right, considering what time of day is best for you. If you only have a certain amount of time, that's time of day that you can do it, that's fine. But we can do other things to get us more prepared, right? And in the beginning of the video, I talked about, do you have a pre-gig ritual or pre-practice ritual? Doing some, having a cup of tea, whatever, turning the phone off, just getting yourself in the mindset for a practice session will help you practice better. And if we practice better, we end up playing better. One thing with powerlifting, right, when we lift, we're actually making ourselves weaker, right? If I go in and I lift, a set of 5 at 400 pounds, the next set is going to be harder, right? I've actually made myself weaker, not stronger. And that's something we need to be aware of when we're training. We're actually making ourselves worse. But after we take some time and recover, it's what's called a super compensation, right? So this is where I recover down here. That's at the end of the session. And this is where I rest and eat, right? And then my mind also, that's another important aspect of it in rest, is that we're giving our mind a break. Once we do that, that's where we get better. So if we don't instantly get better in a practice session, that's okay, right? We still want to take that time to recover, and then we'll start playing better. One thing that we can do that's really bad is practice too long. I'm here and then I'm practicing for whatever, an hour, right? And then right, I start practicing, maybe I've worked an hour and a half. Now I'm practicing 2 hours, right? I've gotten to this point where there's diminished returns. I'm actually making myself worse by practicing too much, right? I'm probably starting to make more mistakes because I just don't have the mental energy anymore, and maybe my hands are worn out, where now I'm actually practicing how to play worse. So we always want to keep our practice to around an hour, 90 minutes tops, because after that, we're just not going to have the focus and physical capacity to continue to practice effectively. And same thing with powerlifting, right? If I keep doing more sets and more sets, all of a sudden, I've gotten to this point where I'm probably going to have to take off 2 or 3 days from lifting again instead of 1, right? And now I've just wasted all this time. If I just done a little bit less, right, I would be able to recover better and then get that super compensation and then practice the next time, right? Make myself a little bit weaker and then super compensate again. And it's the same thing with music. I want to take a break and give myself the time to mentally recover from that practice session, and also physically, right? Our hands are muscles and tendons and bone and all that stuff, and we need to give that time to recover. One thing for me, because I do deadlift and bench press, I do have to be aware of how tired my hands are, right? If I go in and lift 500 pounds, especially a few times, right, the muscle in my hands are tired. It might not feel tired because those aren't really muscles we're generally aware of, but my hands are tired. And if you're in construction or something like that, or if you're a surgeon and you're doing all this fine motor recruitment, right, we need to be aware of that's affecting how we're going to be able to play. So that's something also to be aware of when we're practicing, is just how prepared we are and things we can do to recover from our practice better. And again, keeping our practice sessions to fixed. It doesn't, we don't have to be like, set an alarm for 1 hour and then just stop right there, but just being aware of, is this practice actually going to make me better? If I've gotten to a point where things are starting to get worse, right, that's when it's time to call it, right? We've all reached that point where it's like, why am I getting worse now, right? It's because we need to take a break. And even just intra breaks, right, in a practice session. After I've done, 3 or 4 passes, take a couple minutes, right? We don't need to practice all the way through for an hour, right? It's probably more effective for me to do a few passes, take a minute or two, right? Take a sip of your coffee or whatever, and then go back to it, right? We need to give ourselves that time, just like an athlete would in between sets. The last mental aspect of practice is positive self-talk. Whenever we're sitting down at our guitar, take a moment and tell yourself, you got this, right? You're going to get it. You're great. You're good at steel guitar. I've got one student that every time we get together, it's, how did practice go? And I just want to shake him and be like, no, stop it, right? Tell yourself that you're good, right? You can do this. If you start telling yourself, man, you suck, you're not going to get this, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that we're going to mess it up, right? So it's not just some voodoo. We need to actually tell ourselves that we're good and we're going to be able to get this, and that will translate into better practice and playing better. So let me know what you think in the comments, if you agree with any of this, if you've got other tips, right? And then let everybody know what your pre-gig routine is. When you watch a basketball player step up to the free throw line, right, they have their own routine. Toss the ball twice, spin it, little hip shimmy. Every time they do it, that's what they do. And incorporating all this stuff that athletes do into our music I bet is going to increase our playing ability. So let me know what you think, and if you're going to apply any of this to your practicing, and I'll see you later.
For exclusive content, lesson requests, tab library, and more, visit patreon.com/pedalsteel.
Hey gang, this is Job, that's Winifred, I'm Johnny, and we all want to thank you for watching Johnny Steel Guitar Licks. If you got anything out of this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed it, please help us spread the word and tell your friends. Thanks.